You know the old saying, words have consequences. Well, there are a lot of folks now who are taking a bit of a pause and reflecting after the latest assassination attempt on President Trump. And many of them are blaming rhetoric, especially from the left, for where we are now.
We are in an era of maximum warfare.
No one has ever been more dangerous to this country than Donald Trump, and he is a fascist to his core.
That man cannot see public office again. He is not only unfit, he is destructive to our democracy, and he has to be eliminated.
Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption. But I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace.
We're in a war right now to save this country, and so you have to be willing to do whatever is necessary in order to save the country.
Well, columnists have been taking notice as well. Bernard Goldberg's op-ed in The Hill this week, titled "Not Rocket Science, Extreme Political Rhetoric Eventually Has Consequences." And Jonathan Albert wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. It was titled "When Rationalization Turns Deadly." And he had a very interesting take. In part, it read this way: when people are described as fundamentally dangerous or illegitimate, it changes how actions against them are seen. Now, for most people, that language remains just mere language. But for someone unstable, hearing it often enough can lower the psychological barrier to acting. It can begin to feel less like a choice and more kind of like an obligation. Very powerful words right there. We want to bring in Fox News contributor and political analyst Gianno Caldwell. I thought what he had to say right there was incredibly powerful, Gianno, and there's even more. I know that your opinion on this is also very, very strong, and I just want to share this. I think there are a lot of people who feel like free speech trumps everything, but then there's free speech, but then there's also dangerous speech. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater, and I think sometimes it's getting a little over the line. What do you think?
Well, I think his approach beyond just a little, this has become extreme. And Kevin, you and I were just texting last week while I was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, thinking you were going to be there and you were, hosting, of course. But I recall that day very clearly. I was about 30 or 40 some feet from where the shooting took place. I could see the gunpowder and I heard the shots. And that was a moment where you had no idea what was going on. Some of those videos have gained millions of views. You can check them out at Gianno Caldwell on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, etc. But I'll tell you, this has had great impact. And what we've seen, the comments that you just played, the collage of comments, people like Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, the language that has been used over the course of years is absolutely despicable by him and many of his Democratic peers. Because these words do have consequences, and it's no longer a scenario in place where it's a loner, someone who's been cast out from society, who's taking a moment to try to gain some credibility on the left by trying to attack Trump or anyone conservative. This isn't that. This was an educated individual with degrees who taught, etc. So we know that this far-reaching left-leaning language that is absolutely dangerous to public safety is something that's creeped up into mainstream society, and it's extraordinarily dangerous for many of us that are on the right, conservatives.
Let me share this. This is Larry Lang, cover photo. A lot of outrage in California. Again, if you're talking 86-47, some people will interpret that as, again, meaning that they want to do something to harm the president. This is a vice mayor posting this apparent threat aimed at President Trump. Let me push back for just a second, though, my friend. I just want to ask the question for clarity, because people will say to me, yeah, but you've heard President Trump call groups this or that or the other. What do you say to those people when they make that comparison?
Well, oftentimes President Trump uses particular language when he's attacked. These groups have made a number of claims against him, but not one time do I recall him saying something to hurt individuals, to attack individuals. I've never heard that language used by him, but we can count on many people who've used that kind of language. You think about people like Maxine Waters that says, if you see any Trump officials, you get around, you make a crowd, you push back on them, and you tell them that they are not welcomed here. When have you heard President Trump say that? He hasn't, to my knowledge, said anything like that or something that can be construed in that form. But these Democrats, despite the fact that there's been multiple assassination attempts on President Trump, have not turned down the temperature. In fact, we've seen recent polling that showed that 25% of folks on the left believe that violence is okay and permissible in certain situations compared to 3% of people on the right.
That's right.
You know, there's clearly an issue on the left, 100%.
And I
would tell you, for those on the left who think otherwise, just look at the data. Look at what the history shows. Steve Scalise is another witness of that. And he's not somebody that people consider to be a far-right Republican. He's just a Republican. But this is where we are right now in our country, and it is a problem that must be fixed.
And I'm glad you said that, because I think it's high time that Democrats make the honest assessment that if people in their party are sort of going the extra mile to dehumanize people, you know, this could be very, very dangerous for the country. Let me share this. There's a real surge. You and I have talked about socialism as it relates to the Democratic Party. There's sort of a socialism communism nexus here. Let me share this. Is from David Marcus. Rise of Marxism is a hydra Democrats created but can't control. He says the reason that so many normal Americans are nonplussed by the increasingly unhinged rhetoric and tattoos of the radical left politicians and podcasters is that Democrats can always insist that this is merely the fringe, but it's not true anymore. Marxism has become the Democrats' whole magic carpet. Well, that's one heck of an op-ed, especially as we consider the midterms are just ahead. Do you agree or disagree?
No, I absolutely agree. And someone else who's on the left agrees too, Senator Fetterman, who's often talked about where his party has become. And it's such a problem. We see it in New York City. We saw Mondani recently get elected, and now New Yorkers are saying maybe this the city is on the wrong track in the majority. Yeah. We can see this throughout the entire Democratic Party, where things are going. They have absolutely capitulated to socialism, communism, Marxism. And then you also keep in mind, there's a lot of billionaires that are funding this stuff, George Soros and alike. That's why I started the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety, to go after those prosecutors and George Soros candidates that they're pushing this leftist regime, which impacts us in a very negative way, especially when it comes to crime. Go to caldwellinstitute.org and please support our efforts there. But this is a fight that our country must take on. I think President Trump is doing a great job at that, and we got to continue to expose this stuff wherever it rears its ugly head.
Communism and Marxism, by any other name, is exactly what it is. Real quick, I had to play this. This is the mayor up in Seattle who says, if you're rich and you want to bounce, hit the bricks. Listen.
I think the claims that millionaires are going to leave our state are like super overblown, and if, you know, the ones that leave, like, bye.
She says bye, 30 seconds. That may resonate.
When it's someone else's money,
yeah,
they don't care. But the truth of the matter is, like California and many other places, New York, that are seeing billionaires and millionaires leave in droves because they can afford to leave, is going to cause a great impact on the taxpayers there, especially those who are in the middle class and lower ranges. They're going to have to pay more because the people at the top are leaving. And this is what socialist Democrats do. Until they run out of other people's money, the rhetoric continues.
You nailed it, because they have the capability of leaving if they want to leave. But those of us who don't have that kind of money, aren't as mobile, don't have the kind of cash to just hat up and go to another state, they're often stuck right where the policies are, and that's the unfortunate truth. Gianno Caldwell, great to see you, my friend.
Kevin, real quick, I've seen your cars, so I know you're not one of those people. You can leave.
Hey, from the projects to the presidency, what can I tell you? Thank you, brother. Appreciate your time today. Have a great weekend.
You as well.
You're a good man.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.